I know Chris literally turns down these companies coming to him left, right, and center for $100,000 to $400,000 a month offers regularly. These are companies coming with him with $1 million plus, $3, $4, $5 million a year offers that Chris turns down casually.
What's Chris Bumstead's net worth? We hear from his brother-in-law Ian Valier, plus what Dave Palumbo had to say about Chris Bumstead's following. What's the word? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding. Today I'm joined by Michael Galley up in the other top corner and Stuart Sutherland, IFB Pro, aka Beef Stew. And today we're discussing, the word is that CBUM has fake followers, but probably not. So Dave Palumbo on RX Muscle said, I'll read out a little bit of this, but he said, do you think that the 22 million followers that, Bumstead has legit, because 22 million is a lot. What does Jay Cutler have? Jay is pretty popular. I can't imagine Bumstead having much more than Jay. I'll just open up the page so I can go to the next slide. And he says 22 million is like celebrity. He's got more than Angelina Jolie. Sounds a little suspicious to me. If he had 20 million, don't you think that Versace and these big companies would be offering him big bucks to do a post? If Chris really has 22 million followers, like legit 22 million, he should be selling his own energy drink. If Logan Paul can sell Prime, Bumstead could sell an energy drink just as well. If 20 million was, this is Chris Aceto now, if 20 million was a real number, you would have mainstream advertisers like Diet Coke having you just a Diet Coke and you would get paid. So that was basically responded to as well on Fuad's podcast by Ian Valier, and Ian said,
and to sit there and be like that the followers are fake or whatever some bullshit is, like I can tell you firsthand, and this is not even a word of exaggeration. Fuad knows this when he's talking about like Versace. One, Chris wants to build his own things. He doesn't want to be a fucking employee for people building brands. He wants to build his own. Two, I know Chris literally turns down these companies coming to him left, right, and center for $100,000 to $400,000 a month offers regularly. These are companies coming with him with $1 million plus, $3, $4, $5 million a year offers that Chris turns down casually.
Ian was like reasonably fired up by this. He's like, how fucking out of touch can you be? And sort of went on about it and said a few things. And as we know, like Ian doesn't hold back, which is what I love about Ian. But I love Dave and I love Ian, and Chris is awesome as well. So essentially, Stu, what do you think about firstly this, and then I'll get into a few things that Ian actually went into and said as well.
Man, it's kind of painful to have to talk about this. Like, it's kind of cute because, like, you know, these guys are, you know, Chris and Dave. I love them, right? But like, dude, they're close to 60 now, I think, both of them, and you know, they're talking like they are 30 to 40 years behind the times. And yeah, to summarize, like, yes, he does have legitimate followers. And if you're wondering why, like, he's not going for like brand deals with, you know, Coke, Diet Coke or whatever the fuck, right? Or Versace, it's because they, you know, he's a co-owner in Raw and Revive and his own energy drink company. And he's, instead of getting like sponsored to promote other people's products, he's just selling them himself. So he's cutting out a ton of other shit, and he's probably making more money than he would if he were to try and market other people's products, because, you know, he owns the companies that are selling them. So I think the way that he has everything set up is a lot smarter. But yeah, it's just kind of a reality check for these guys, I think, because everybody jumped up their ass as soon as they said this stuff.
As soon as I heard it, I was like, nah, that's not right, because you see how many likes he gets on his photos, and the chances of him paying to have these followers and then paying for likes on the post as well are highly unlikely. Because I go to get my hair cut by someone random and they ask what you do. I say, oh, I've got a YouTube channel, and then I sort of say that, and then they go, oh, what about? And then they go, and then I've had one barber say, oh, have you heard of CBUM? Do you know CBUM? Like, and that was the one person they knew. You know, so it's like it's known among so many young people. Like at the gym, like kids are cutting their hair to be like CBUM. You know, like when you have the mullet, everyone had the mullet. Now everyone's got the Sam Sulek. You know, so obviously these kids are following CBUM. They're following Sam Sulek, and they're the when you, I think the top guy or one of the top couple of guys, then you can be mainstream. You know what I mean? Like you'll get known mainstream. But unless you're one of those guys and appeal to young kids, then you're essentially not going to be. But Mick, something that Ian said as well on Fuad's podcast today is that he said that Chris Bumstead all the time gets offered deals that pay $100,000 to $400,000 a month. He said $3 to $5 million a year for basically endorsement deals that he turns down. He said all the time. So that tells me that Chris Bumstead must be making some crazy fuck you money to turn down $3 to $5 million a year for probably, I don't know what commitments he would have with that as well. But I mean, crazy money.
Yeah. I mean, just going off, I mean, I don't know Chris personally, but just going off how he comes across on social media, you know, his YouTube channel and stuff like that, I couldn't even imagine Chris buying followers to begin with.
Yeah, he doesn't care. You know, he's a normal dude, kind of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not as normal as a 5-time Olympian could be, but
yeah,
I just can't see it. You're right, Xavier. You got people that had the mullet, the mustache. I see kids in the gym and on the Goldie with those sort of looks. He's got those shirts that come out. I see these people with shirts everywhere. Like he's got a legit following, and you see that when you're at the Olympia, like the amount of people in the crowd that stand up and cheer for him, things like that too. Maybe if he's been given these endorsements for other companies, he's the sort of guy, I guess, if he's not aligned to it, he just wouldn't do it. He comes across as that sort of person.
He's got a very strong brand, and it's like a brand of sort of just like, I'm not going to endorse it if I don't use it. Like he's got a very honest brand. So like if he does endorse something, you know that it's probably a legit thing. You know, I can't imagine Chris just going like, here, buy this. And everyone just rags on him because he's endorsing some bullshit, you know? So, but it goes to show
endorse, like what products like that aren't he's not like a part owner in the company. I'm trying to think what
he's got his own line of products, isn't he? So, what's his products here? He's got his pre-workout, his protein.
The Bum pre-workout.
Is it involved or is it?
Yeah, so Raw and Revive, he's a part owner in that. It's him, Matt Jansen, and this guy Dom. I don't really know much about Dom, but yeah, like between the three of them, they own it. And from what I've heard at that company, like literally almost none of the other sales. Like none of the sales are made by other athletes there. It's almost entirely driven by Chris, which is just crazy, you know. Like so, you'll have like some good bodybuilders who are with him, and they're not getting paid. They're like they get sent products or something, and that's about it, you know, because they're not really providing a ton of value necessarily to this company because they've got this juggernaut at the head of it. They don't really need anyone else.
I agree. I just think Chris resonates with so many people. You look at all his post-Olympia interviews, he's just down to earth. He speaks from the heart, that sort of thing. It's actually pretty refreshing to see that in the bodybuilding. And that just opens himself up to a wide, range of people that are going to follow him.
Yeah, 100% for sure. But it's crazy that the top guys from this industry, like some of these guys make huge amounts of money. Like Ian's been pretty honest about, I've heard some figures from some of these Brazilian and guys from other country. Someone told me, can't even remember who did actually, to be honest. They told me Urz's figures and they were like pretty amazing. And when I say pretty amazing, like I was blown away. So like what these guys, because I think when someone's from, one of these European countries or Brazil or whatever, if the top athletes are saying, top bodybuilders are saying, this is the pre-workout, it's like they just go to it. They're just like, I trust him 100%. I think we're more skeptical, like in America and Australia and things like that. We're like, is it though? Or are you just paid to endorse that, So I think that, there's a lot of money that's being made by not just Chris, but all these other people in the industry too, in terms of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And when I did the figures on what Sam Sulek potentially makes, which is a video that will be up just before this one, it's huge money. If you break down how many views he gets on YouTube, which is like 1 million views a day, he's making bank off that. And then plus, obviously, if he's making 10% on his sales with Hostile, that's going to be a huge chunk of money too, because I'm sure he's selling tons of product. So this guy's making multiple millions a year. And some people in the comments, they're like, what are you smoking? You're on crack. He's making about $30,000 to $40,000 a month, and I'm like, he ain't making that little a month. He's making that. He's making that almost in a couple of days.
I talked to Ben about this at Nationals, and Ben Chow, because he's with the Hostile, right? And yeah, it's a lot of money. And the funny thing is, the kid's not spending any of it. Like, he bought a new camera to film his videos with, and that's literally it. Like, he is just stacking money up.
Just saving it.
Good for him. It's a smart thing to do, because that's a hell of a trap. Giving a lot of money to a 21-year-old, 22-year-old who doesn't know what to do with it. So it's good to see that he has a good head on his shoulders to not be a fool with it.
And it's been such a short period of time as well, because he's only been making this money really like anything like this since the last 4 months or something. Before that, I mean, it's like, he's probably making an okay income, but then it's got just skyrocketed.
The growth was just exponential. It was insane. Like, the scale of it and the time frame that it happened in. And I think that's one of the things that is kind of makes this hard to believe for a guy like Chris Aceto or Dave Palumbo, because they were in this industry 20, 30 years ago, when the ability to scale a personal brand at that rate or to that size just did not exist back then. Like, if you were in the magazines, you were probably killing it, you're making a good living, as a pro bodybuilder doing that. But like 20 million followers, no. Like, 20 million people did not know fucking Jay Cutler's name. A lot of people did, but it wasn't that many. Which is why this is hard for them to believe, because like they see these guys, and I do too. The old pros from back in the day is like, these are legends. Like, these were the greats. How is Chris making more money and more popular than them? It doesn't compute.
Yeah, because that's just how it wasn't like that back in the day. These legends of the sport, some of them now just don't even have a place to fit in terms of making money, unless they're going and training people or coaching people or whatever. When back in the day, if these legends retire, they're definitely going to get media gigs with magazines or whatever. There's going to be outlets for them to still be, held in a very, very high regard and be very well known. But nowadays, because anyone can really become famous, and like you said, Sam Sulek, he said, oh, this is, because I watched his meet and greet, which was insane. People just screaming for him. 5,000 people lined up. People there for 16 hours, I think, lined up or something insane like that, which is, to me, completely mind-blowing and confusing as to how he's that popular in such a short period. Yeah, it's like a Taylor Swift or something, but like bodybuilding. But and he said, yeah, I've never really experienced this before. And he goes, oh, when I was at the Arnold, I had like 10 people come up to me when I had like 50,000 subscribers. I'm like, that's the Arnold this year. So
he's handling it well then, isn't he? Considering that, like Stu said, it's a fast growth, and he seems to be handling it pretty well on his videos. He seems to, and I think that's what people love too. He's just him. He's just.
Look at him. Like, what's made him successful? He doesn't overthink shit. He just does what feels good, and he's himself. So you translate that kind of attitude onto a public personality, and like, no, this really shouldn't rock his boat. It was just so good to see. Like, Ben kept on saying the same thing over and over again. He's like, we made the right guy famous. And that's the best way to put it, because he's a guy. He's kind of weird. He's kind of quirky, and that's why we love him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear that.
And it's like Sam had a lot of the young people fans already. He joined Hostile, and it was this full industry. It was like the videos of him eating that stuff, which created controversy. It was just like a perfect bomb that exploded into like him being talked about, all his fans going, no, he's a really good guy, blah, blah, blah. Why are you hanging so much shit on him? So more online talk, the more his name's getting mentioned. And it's just like, it was like the perfect storm of making someone famous, pretty much.
Like Joe Rogan's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You made it, pal. You made it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got on to Sam Sulek from Chris Bumstead, but obviously both extremely popular online. But you got to, like, when you think, how much is Chris Bumstead actually making? If you're turning down endorsement deals that are potentially up to $5 million US a year, how much do we think he's actually clearing a year now? Is it 10 million? Is it 5? Is it Is it, because is he happy with 5, at this point? Like, it'd be so hard to actually guess. Or is it, do you think the growth of his company is more what he's into in terms of like, look, if this company's worth X amount, then my net worth is really this. So what do you think, Mick?
Oh God, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me first. I can't even have a stab in the dark on that one. I've got no idea. If you're going off what Ian says, then it's clearly in the multiple millions for sure. But
Yeah.
Clearly the $50,000 paycheck at the Olympia doesn't bother him whatsoever. He said that many times. He's not there for that. So, I don't know, Stu. What do you think? Handball on that one?
Well, I think he's probably, maybe not stacking cash so much as like reinvesting into stuff and like setting himself up long term. Because I mean, he'll remain popular for a very long time after he's done competing, which will probably be in the next year or two here, right? Like he's probably not going to do that many more Olympias. He'll have left his mark, and he's got a kid to raise now, or he will very soon. So, where's he go? Like, I think he just sinks that money that he's making into, his businesses, and or into whatever else that whether it's real estate or whatever that can grow your money over the years. And he's probably just being smart with it. Because maybe he doesn't. Chris is a shy guy. He's handled the fame and popularity very well, but like maybe he doesn't want to do this for another decade. After he's done competing out of the limelight. Imagine what his kid's life is going to be like. Raising a kid at that level of fame is. I mean, it's got to be kind of tough.
Because if he goes from 22.3 million followers on Instagram, what he is now, to 50 million, it's like then he is like a mega celebrity at that point. Because if he's getting followed down the street as it is now, it's like okay, you need to start getting security for your family and stuff and things like that, I imagine. So it's like I can definitely see if he wanted to move away from the spotlight of it all, but at the same time, he is the business essentially. He's his own billboard, so it's really.
Another thing you got to remember is like a guy like Jay, right, who started making big money back in like the early 2000s. I mean, what he always talks about, like when he got his first Arnold Classic check, like he went and bought a house with it. Like he put a down payment on a house, and that was like the beginning of a lot of real estate investment for him. And that's where he makes most of his money. Chris Aceto does not make his money coaching really. Like he has shitloads of real estate. Yeah, he's a real estate guy. So, if you, and, ultimately, Jay, sells clothes, he sells supplements, he does, promote brands and products and so forth. He is not doing anywhere near the numbers of, some of these younger guys. Cause, everybody loves Jay in the bodybuilding world. Right. But like, your average 20-year-old doesn't know who the fuck Jay Cutler is. So you're not going to be selling a lot of stuff to them. Like I'll bet he does way lower numbers as far as sales and so forth compared to, whoever the fuck influencer just popped off on TikTok even. But, it doesn't matter because he's got a massive real estate portfolio. That's where all his net worth and income is coming from. Not all of it, but like most of it. And he just stays in the fitness industry because the old school bodybuilding fans love it. The hardcore fans love him, and he probably makes some money here, but it's not most of it. And so maybe Chris goes that route eventually as well. And the hardcore fans will always be fans of him, but he's making his money elsewhere because he got that seed and he planted it and it grew into something huge. He's got a very big seed right now, to be clear, but I'm curious to see where a guy like him or, Sam, obviously very different situation, but a guy like Sam does, 5 years from now, because the formula has to change, but it can't change too much or they lose what made it cool in the first place, especially with Sam. How does he transition? Does he get on stage? Does he just keep on doing videos every day? Does he get a real job or something and like share that part of his life? I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch these guys.
If I was Sam, I would not be bothering going to get a real job because I mean, I think the way it's set up for him, I think that he's going to have continued success. And like you said, if the content gets stale, he still has the option of then, okay, I'm going to vlog my first show every day leading up to it. You know what I mean? And maybe, I don't know if he keeps the same sort of content, because at some stage he's going to be going to gyms and he's not going to be able to get a workout in, because I imagine at some stage now it's a little bit like that. So I can imagine in another 6 months time, it's like he has this camera set up and there's constantly people coming up to him, you know, because, or he'll have to start training at night or set up his own gym, or who knows sort of how that will go for him. And I thought about that. I'm like, another 6 months. I'm like, I wonder if he can still keep doing this, being exactly the same. And he still is doing, what is he doing, engineering or something?
Yeah, he's going to engineering school, mechanical engineering. It's funny. I went to fucking engineering school. Things did not work out like this for me.
You didn't video yourself every day.
Oops. Yeah.
But anyway, I think that I actually looked up what Chris Bumstead's net worth is, which I think is probably incredibly inaccurate. Here it says his net worth as of 2023 is 7 million, which comes to rupees.
You're quoting in rupees. It's a reliable source you got here.
It was written by Ramana D. I think Ramana is from India. Anyway, but I saw a lot of the estimates out there. So I literally looked and I saw websites say 1 million. I'm like, I'd say he's got more of a net worth than that. But adding up, obviously, we don't know how much of Raw and Revive he owns, but he came into that company because he was sponsored by someone else first, and he came into them because he had a chance to own part of the company, which is probably a pretty smart move with how popular Chris has gotten, rather than getting paid a set salary. But yeah, I imagine with his part of the company that he owns, whatever he has earned so far, he's sold obviously t-shirts and all that sort of stuff, which I think if we saw the sales of those, we'd be like mind blown as well, because I've seen CBUM t-shirts and all that sort of stuff out there. So
bro, it's crazy.
I reckon he's got a net worth of at least, I would say when they evaluate the company and stuff and his shares in it, I'd say his net worth is probably like 50 million or something, or 40 million.
Let's just throw numbers out there.
Yeah. I'm guessing.
It doesn't really matter. It's plenty to set him up for the rest of his life and go and invest it and make more. And, yeah.
That's a cool thing for him and his family as well, though, because he's setting up like generational wealth. Like not just enough to be wealthy for your life, but like to literally for future generations. Like sometimes like, you know, people when you're like, oh yeah, they come from money. I'm like, like you'd never think of like which person actually earned all that money and like whether it's family business and stuff, but it'd be pretty cool to be like Chris Bumstead's great grandchild, because I'm pretty sure you'll, even that far down, you'll be looked after. But
maybe his son
anyway,
will fuck up and blow it all. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Real. Oh, I won't say that. I was going to say Hunter Biden. But anyway, well, it's
stop recording.
Yeah, okay. We're going to get banned. Anyway. We'll wrap it up there. That's it for What's the Word. For myself, Xavier Wills, Michael Galley, and IFB Pro, Stuart Sutherland, we are out.